Okay, hello and welcome back to class. Okay, so our last video or our last class, this is where we stopped, where we loaded this data back into Excel, when we finished cleaning from a Power Query and came back to Excel, okay, to start our analysis. Okay, so without wasting our time, I'm going to get into that. Okay, so this is what our data looks like when we loaded. Okay, so this is everything we added. This is all the columns that we added. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and add a pivot table. Okay, before I do that, I'll take a little time and talk about the pivot table. Okay, now we said that a pivot table is a powerful tool in Excel. Okay, and it helps us to summarize data. Okay, it helps us to put our data in a structure. It helps us to structure our data. Okay, to help us to bring out insights from the data. Okay, now I'm going to show us how to add this pivot table to start our analysis and to summarize our data. Okay, so for me to add my pivot table, I'm going to go to Insert. I'll go to Insert. Now on Insert, I'll see pivot table. I'll click on it. Now as pivot table, if I click on it, if you check, you will see a highlight line surrounding our data. Okay, and it's showing table/range, meaning that I am picking from this range of data. That is what it simply means. And if you check here, it's on new worksheet. So I'm going to leave it on this new worksheet. Now this simply means that it's going to add a clean or new worksheet for me to work on, to do my summarization on and all of that, do my analysis on, or do my modeling on, data modeling on. Now there's existing worksheet here. This simply means that it's going to shift this data one side and add the pivot table there. I don't really want it there. I want to have a clean work. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on new worksheet. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is add this data to data model. So I'm going to check this box and click OK. Okay, now that our pivot table has added here. Okay, now this is our pivot table. Now if I click out here, you will see that our pivot table field here will go off because I'm on the Excel sheet. Now if I come back here and click on the pivot table, it comes back. Are you seeing that the pivot table is back? Okay. If your pivot table field doesn't have the same interface like mine has, side by side, you're seeing your columns here and your pivot table, your columns, rows, and values. So you can't see it like this. Come to your settings here. Come to your settings. Make it side by side. If yours is stacked simply means is on top of each other. Mine is showing side by side. Just come here. Make it few sections side by side. If you check, yours is still on stacked. It's on top of each other. So you can still leave it like this, or you can make it side by side if you want to have the same interface as I have. Okay, that is it. Now I'm going to go over to calculating our KPIs or our measures. I'm going to go over to doing that. Okay, so for me to calculate our KPIs, our key performance indicators, for me to start doing these calculations, okay, I'm going to go to my table here. I'm going to go to my table here and I'm going to right click and I'll say add measure. Now the measure box will come up. Now my first calculation is going to be this. I'm going to calculate the active employees. I want to get the total number of employees still in the company. Okay, active employees. Okay, now I'm going to come down here. Now I'm going to use sum. Sum of my count of active I'll close my brackets. I'll check my DAX. Okay. Now, when I checked my DAX formula, it's marked this good, showing that it's correct. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. Make it a whole number. Then add it. Use a comma separated value for it and click OK. Okay, now that I've added this, if you check, we can't see what you calculated anywhere around there. It's simply down here. It's simply down here. So I scroll down to come here and I'll pick it. Now I have that our active employees are 2007. Okay, we've gotten this. So I'm going to scroll up again. I'm going to scroll up and right click, add measure. Okay, so I'm going to get inactive. Okay, now I'm also going to do sum again. I'll double click to pick it. Sum of my count of inactive. Okay, so you can see why we did what we did in Power Query when we were using the column from example to get the count of employees when we did the zeros and ones. Okay, so this is why we did that. Okay, so I'm going to check down and check the box. So we have 1,249. Okay, so these are people that have left the organization already. Okay, so let me go up and I'm going to add another one. Now I'm going to calculate our leave balance. Okay, I'm going to calculate our leave balance. Okay, leave balance. Okay, I'm going to be doing sum again. Sum of the leave balance. And I'll close brackets. Check my DAX formula. Okay, let's check what the issue is. Oh, sorry, we are using a column. Okay, it said that a column is already bearing the name leave balance. So let me change the name to leave balance. Okay, so we have it. Okay, we have this. Okay, let's go ahead and get our total employee now. How many employees do we have? Okay, another measure. Now, total employee. Total employee. Okay, we have let's do a distinct count. So I'm going to pick in my distinct count of our employee ID. Okay, I'm closing the brackets. My DAX formula, okay, is correct. Okay, make this number, then add comma separated value, and okay. So let's see what we have. Okay, we have 3,256. Okay, so it's correlating with what we have as our active employee and our inactive employee. Okay, so let's go ahead and add another one. Let's get our turnover rate. Let's get our turnover rate. Okay, our turnover rate. Okay, like we said, formula to calculate your turnover rate is the inactive employee divided by the total employee. Okay, so I'm going to be calling up my square bracket. Now, if I have my square bracket, I'm going to be picking my inactive employee. Inactive employee divided by, I'll call up another square bracket, divided by my total employee. Where are you? Total employee. Okay, I have this. Let me check my calculation. Okay, it's correct. I'll click OK. Let's see what we have. Okay, we have this. So I'm going to turn this to percentage. So I'm going to click on the value that I got and I'll make it percentage. So we have 38% as our turnover rate. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get a retention rate. I'm going to go ahead and calculate our retention rate. Okay, so this is going to be 1 minus turnover. 1 minus turnover. Okay, and check, correct, and okay. So what do we have here? Percentage. Okay, we have 62%. Okay, in case you're wondering why I am doing 1 minus, so that is the formula to get retention. 1 minus the attrition rate. Okay, so that is the formula to get retention rate. Okay, so let's get the next calculation. Let's get the sick days, total sick days. Okay, sick days. Now, sick days is a sum of the sick days Let's see what we have. Okay, we have, let me add a comma to this, then run down the 0. Okay, so let's get the total salary. Add measure. Total salary. Okay, for us to get our total salary, we're going to be doing sum of our current salary. Okay, is here. Check that. Correct. Okay, so I'm going to make in this number and comma. Okay, let's see what we have. We have 29 million. Okay, let's get another one. Let's get the average tenure. Okay, average, I'm going to be shortening the spelling, average tenure. Now this is average of a tenure in company. Let's see what we have. Okay, we have 9. Let me run this down. Okay, 9.1. Let me just leave it there. Okay, let's get another one. So let's get our average age. Average age. So this is the average of our age. Average age. Okay, we have 30. So let me run this down. $31. Okay, so what then do we have? Let's get average salary. Let's look at average salary. The average salary of an employee. The average salary of the employees. Let's get it. Average salary. Average salary. Average of the current salary. Okay, this is what we have. Let me add a comma. So average salary is 9,051. Okay, we have this. So we've gotten our calculation or our measures, our KPIs. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'll be taking this value here, this value inside the column box, this value here. I'll be dragging it down to the rows. Okay, if I drag it down to the rows, I can see my values now sitting on the rows. My values are now sitting on the rows. Initially, they were sitting on the columns. That was the reason why this value was inside the column box. They were sitting on the column straight. Now, what I did was I dragged it from the column box to the row box. Now you can see they are all now lying on the rows. Okay, so what I'm going to do next now is I'm going to reference this. Okay, now I'm going to reference this pivot table. Okay, so for me to reference this pivot table, I'm simply referencing only the values. Okay, I'll click enter. I'll put equal to again. I'll click enter, just like that. Equal to again. Click equal to. Click just like that. Okay, so I'm going to be formatting this. So this is, I'm making this a comma, then I'll run the zeros down. Okay, these two here, these are in percentages, so I'm making them percentage. Okay, this one's comma separated value, reducing the zeros. Okay, this one. Okay. Okay, so we've done this. We've referenced this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and name this sheet KPI. KPI. Enter. Okay, I can decide to color code it by right clicking on the sheet tab there, and I can pick a color here. So let me pick this red color. So if I come to my table here, I can see that my KPI here is the red, is on the red sheet. Okay, so let's go ahead and start making our charts. Now, first on our chart, we're going to make an employee. We're going to look at the employee distribution. Okay, we're going to look at the employee distribution. Okay, let me go ahead and add a pivot table. Now, if you notice my table here, you will see that I have this table here showing HR data. Now, this is the raw file that we haven't worked on. Are you seeing that all those things we did in a Power Query, all the columns we added, they are not here? Now, if you come to this one here, you will see that this is the one we've worked on. You can see every single thing we did. Okay, so please take note why if you're working with this data and you have your tables showing like this, please. Okay, so you don't work with the wrong one. Okay, instead I'm going to rename this table to main data. Okay, just for clarity sake. Okay, so this is what I have. Now I want to add a pivot table now. I want to add another pivot table. Now if you check, I've already added a pivot table here when I did this KPI calculations. Now I can simply copy this pivot table here to another sheet to start doing my charts. But okay, I don't want to do that. I want to come back here and still show us how to add it again. Now I came back to my main data, the data that I claimed. This is where I came back to. And I'm doing this explanation because in my classes, in my physical classes, I find out that some of my students during class or sorry assignments, they will still come back here to try to insert a pivot table. Okay, they will come back here to insert a pivot table. Your pivot table, it will be picking this. This is not your data. You can't use this to insert a pivot table. Okay. Okay, so let me come back to the main data. So on this main data, I'm on a SAT already. I'll click on my pivot table. So you see what it's picking. The main data is what it's picking. Okay, so it's already on new worksheet. Now I'll click add this data to data model and I'll click OK. Okay, so we have our pivot table here. Now let me go ahead and model. Now, like I said earlier, I want to do an employee distribution. So I'll go to my calculations. Down. I'll come to my calculations down and I want to pick my total employee. Okay, I'll pick my total employee and I'll pick my department. Where is my department? Let me get it. My department. Okay, my department went to row. Then I want my location. My location, where are you? Okay, my location is my business unit. My business unit, I'll drag it to my column. I'll drag my business unit. Business unit can also be location. That is where the business is located, the business unit. Okay, so I'll drag this to my column. So I want this to be like this. Now what this is simply showing is this. Now these are the departments. Okay, these are the departments. These are the locations. Now this is simply showing that in Brantford, the exec management, they are 59 in number in that department. In Brantford, they are 59 in number. In Hamilton location, they are 33 for exec management. In London, they are 27 in that department. So these are the number of employees for each department and each location. So this is just what this analysis we did here is saying. This is the insight from this analysis. Okay, I'm not making any chart. I just wanted to show the employee distribution. Okay, I don't want to make any chart with this. So I'll go ahead and name this sheet employee distribution. Okay, I can still color code this, say blue. Okay, let me add another pivot table. Insert pivot table to data model. Okay, now let's do our second modeling. So we're going to do a turnover rate by age group. Turnover rate, where is my turnover rate? Turnover rate and age group. Okay, so this will enable us to see the age group with the highest turnover. So I'm going to, okay, let me reference this. I'll reference this equal to enter. Then I'm going to fill this. I'm going to fill this, drop it here, then fill it down again. Okay, that is it. Let me expand my column. So I'm going to highlight this and make it into percentage. Okay, so let me explain what I did here. I simply did this because I wanted to reference this pivot table out. I'm referencing this pivot table out because there are some charts you might want to make, and it will tell you that you cannot make this chart with a data inside the pivot table. So it simply means that you should bring the data out of the pivot table or simply reference the pivot table. So, but the chart I'm going to make now, I can still make it with the data inside the pivot table, but I just wanted to show us ahead of time in case you encounter something like that. Okay, it simply means you should reference it out to use that chart. Okay, so now I have this. This is what I need. I am not using the grand total to make a chart, so that was why I avoided it. I didn't include it. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this. If you check, this is what I highlighted. This is the data I need for my chart. Okay, so when I highlight, I'll go to insert. Okay. Okay, I'll be using okay, let me use this. Okay, I'm going to be using this. Okay, now we've made our charts. We've made our charts. Okay, we've made our charts. Now, the next thing we are going to do here is just to format this chart. Okay, I'm simply going to go to my chart element here. I'll open this. Now I'm going to uncheck my grid line. Now, then I'll bring out my data label. Okay, when I have this, I'm going to remove this axis because I don't really need it. I simply clicked on the axis and I click delete. Okay. Okay, later I'm going to start making our dashboard. I'm going to change the chart titles. Okay, so let me leave that for now. So let me rename this sheet. So this sheet is by age group. Let me name it just by age group. By age group. Okay. Let me color code this. Okay, so this is what we have here. Now we've seen that the age group of 68 to 87, they are the one with the highest turnover. Okay, so this is like I explained when I was doing the dashboard, giving the dashboard insights. This is normal because this is the retirement age. Okay, so you can see the turnover rates and the age group with the highest turnover rate here and the lowest. Okay, I think the lowest is in this middle age, 41 to 53. They are still active. They are still an active workforce. Okay. Okay, followed by the 28 to 40 and 15 to 27 years. So the highest turnover is between 54 to 65 and 68 to 87 years. Okay, so this is the insight we're getting from this chart or this analysis we did here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I won't go to insert here again to add a pivot table. I don't want to go to insert here to add a pivot table. So what I'll simply do is this. I already have an existing pivot table here. So what I'll simply do is this. I'll copy this down, Control C, and I'll go to a new sheet. Let me add a new sheet. I'll go to a new sheet. I'll Control V. I'll paste this here. So I have this here. What I'll simply do now is just to remodel this. So what I'm going to do is I need to model a turnover rate by department. Turnover rate by department. So what I'm simply going to do is this. Okay, already I have turnover rates. Already I have turnover rate here. So I'm simply going to uncheck this age group. So I'm going to uncheck this age group, and if I uncheck it, this is how it's going to be. Now if I uncheck the age group, I'm going to check my departments. Okay, so let me still reference again, equal to. I'll click on this, enter. Okay, I'll bring this here and fill it down, then expand. Let me format this to percentage. Okay, let's do this. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to highlight this, insert. Okay. Okay, let's look at what we use to make this dashboard. Okay, so this is what we are going to, this is our dashboard like we said earlier. This is our dashboard. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, so this is the chart we used here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to format this. I'm removing the grid line. I'm bringing out data labels, and I'm going to remove this. I'll click on this axis, the x-axis, and I'll delete it. I don't need it. Okay, my data labels are out, so I don't need it. Okay, so I'm going to be leaving this here. So I'm going to be naming this sheet by department. Okay, let me color code it. Okay, so let's add another pivot table. Let's add another pivot table. So I'm going to copy this again, Control C. I'll add a sheet, Control V. Okay, So let's remodel. So I'm going to be modeling a turnover rate by work type. So I'm going to be unchecking this and I'll check work type. Okay, so this is what we have. Let me reference. Enter. Okay. 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 So let's make our charts. Okay, I'm going to be using this tree map. Okay, let's check what we used here. Okay, that is it. Okay. Okay, I'm going to be changing the, let me see. Okay, let's remove the legend. On the data label, go to more data label options and I'll check value. Value will simply bring out the actual value. Let's see the percentages. Okay, this is what we wanted. Okay, so let me reduce this a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to be leaving this here. Okay, so we can see that the insight we're getting here is that the part-time workers, they are the ones with the highest turnover rates of 40%. And the full-time is at 39%, the contract is at 35%, which is the lowest. So the part-time workers are living more. They are the ones living more, followed by the full-time workers. Okay, okay. Maybe this is due to maybe work they are not satisfied with their job or maybe work-life balance issues. Okay, so this can be some of the reasons why they tend to live more. Okay, okay. Now, if you come back to this chart, sorry, I'm bringing us back. If you come back to this chart, we can see the insights we're getting here is that these are the departments and the rates of turnover rates in those departments. Okay, we can see that the highest turnover rate here is between IT and legal, 42% each. Okay, followed by exec and facilities. Okay, so you can see what is happening here in terms of department issues and their turnover rates. Okay, so let me go to the charts we are modeling. Okay, we've already talked about this. So let me go ahead and change this sheet name. So this is going to be by work type. Make this green. Okay, we have this. Now let's get another chart. Let's do another analysis. Let's see what else we can get. Control C. I'll open a new sheet. Control V. Okay, so let's model. Let me cancel this so I can see my pivot table field. Okay, so we are modeling a turnover by ethnic group. So let me remove this and check my ethnic group. Okay, this is what we have. So I'm going to reference again, equal to, I clicked on the row label, clicked enter, and I'll fill to the right, drop and fill down, then expand my columns. Okay, let me turn this to percentage. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this and go to insert. Okay, let me get the chart we used here. Okay, we used an area chart. Okay, so I'm going to be highlighting this and we're going to make the chart. Okay, so from the line charts, I'll go and get my area 2D area chart. So we're going to be using this chart. Now I'm going to format this. I'll remove the green lines and bring out the data labels. Okay, this is what we have here. I'm going to remove this y-axis, click and delete. Okay, so we're going to have it like this. We're going to be having this chart like this. Okay, so let me move this somewhere here. Okay, now we have this. Then I'm going to rename this sheet to by ethnic group. Okay, and I'll color code this dark color. Let me use yellow again. Okay, so let's get the next one. Okay, now for our next chart, let's get this. Okay, let's get this chart here. Let's get this. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'll copy this pivot table. Control C. Sorry, let me copy again. Control C to a new sheet. Control V. Okay, so I'm going to remodel this. So I'm going to be unchecking this and I will uncheck this. Then I'm going to take a total employee. I'll take total employee and then I'll take age group. Where are you? I'll take age group. I'll take age group and I'll take gender. Okay, I'll take gender. Okay, so this is what I have. Now I'm going to make my charts. I'll make my chart from here. Okay, I'll go to insert. Now if you notice, I didn't reference because I can actually make my chart from there. So I'm taking the 2D column chart. Okay, this is what I have. Okay, so I'm going to format this chart. I'll remove the legend, I don't need it. I'll remove the grid line. Okay, and I'll bring out my data label. Now I'm going to click on this employee, total employee, right click, and I'll say hide all field buttons on charts. Okay, that will go up. I don't really need that. Okay, so this is what we have. Now what this is simply saying is this. Now this is our total employee by age group and gender. Now if we look at the age group of 15 to 27 years, we can see that the female here is more. The female here is more on the 15 to 27 year age group. we have 1061 female and just 900 and something male. Okay, so if you come to the age group of 28 to 40, we have more of the male being 312 and the female being just 242. So that is just going to the other age group. So this is the insight from this chart. It's just showing us insights regarding the number of female and number of male, okay, for each of the age groups. Okay, so this is what we have here. Okay, so I'm going to be naming this chart. I'm going to be naming this by employee. Okay, by employee age. Okay, let me just name it that. Okay, and I'm going to use the tab color. Let me use the tab color. Okay, let me use this. Okay, let's add another. Okay, so these are what we have. Okay, let's add another chart. Let's add another chart. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, we've gotten some of this. We've gotten some of this. Okay, we've gotten this. We've gotten this. We've gotten this also. Okay, I think we've not gotten this and this ones here. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so our next chart is this. Let's try to get this. Okay, so I'm going to add another pivot table so that I can model another date. Okay, let me add a new sheet, Ctrl V, and I'll shift this. Okay, now let's go ahead and model. Okay, now I'm going to be doing a total employee. Let me uncheck what I have here. Let me uncheck all of this. I'm taking total employee. Okay, I'm taking a turnover rate. And I'm taking an employee rating. Okay. Let me get it. Okay, we have a column called our employee rating. Okay, satisfaction rating. Okay, I'll be taking our satisfaction rating. Okay, so let me just okay, let me reference this. Equal to, click, enter, click, fill to the drop and fill down. Okay, so let me make this percentage. Okay, so let me highlight so that we can make our chart. Okay, now I'll be using okay, let me use a okay, let's use a combo chart to make this. Let's use a combo chart to make this. Okay, so this is what we have. Now let me format. I'm removing the legend. I'm removing the grid line, and I'm bringing out the data label. Okay, now let's talk about the insights from this chart and this analysis we did here. Okay, what we are talking about here is this. We have our total employee by the satisfaction and the turnover rate. Okay, we can see that the people here that rated average, look at their what is it called? Their turnover rate. Their turnover rate here is this is a 37%. Okay, and people that rated average is 1,600 and okay, let me add a comma separated value to this to make it proper. Okay, now we have it to be 1,607 persons rated average. So people that rated their satisfaction rates average is they are the highest, judging from the bar we have here. Okay, so they are 1,617 and their turnover rate is 37%. Okay, persons that rated excellent, they are just 307 and look at their okay, look at their percentage here is 30 sorry 43%. 43%. Okay, so you can trace this down. Okay, you can trace this down. Okay, so let me name this sheet. Let me name the sheet by satisfaction. Okay, let me color code this tab. Okay. Okay, so let us get our last chart. Let's get our last chart. Let's get our last chart. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and I'll do Control C and Control V. Okay, so I'm going to remodel this to, let's get average salary by gender. Average salary by gender. So I'm going to be removing all of this. Average salary by gender. Okay, so this is what we have here. So I'm going to reference this. Okay, we have this. Let me format these numbers. Okay, this is what we have. So we have the average salary by gender for the female is 9,088 and the male is 9,016. Okay, let's try to get something here. Minus this. Okay, I'm trying to create a balance so that we can have our separate donut charts for each of the genders. Okay, so that is why I'm trying to create a balance for it. Okay, equal the male minus the female. Okay, the first one I did was the female minus, sorry, yes, the female minus the male, and I did for this one the male minus the female. Okay, so I'm going to be taking this and I'll go to insert. I'll come to my pie chart. I'll be using a donut chart. Okay, so I have this for female, and if I bring out my data label, this is what we have, and I will check this legend. Okay, this is what we have here. Let me reduce this a little bit. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get the last one. which is the male. Insert do not charts. Okay, I'll remove the legend and bring out the data label. Okay. Okay, so this is what we have. We have them separate. Okay, we have a tail like this. Okay, now we've gotten all our charts. We've gotten our charts. We've gotten all our charts. So we can see the average salary for the female. We can see the average salary for the male gender. Okay, now these are all for our charts. Now, if you come to this dashboard, you will notice that there's a spark line here. You will notice that there's a spark line here, and there's also another one here. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this too. Let's go ahead and add these spark lines. Okay, so let's do this. That is the last thing we are going to do for this class for today. Okay, next class we'll go over to building our dashboard. Okay, for us to do this, let me shift this above here. Let me just shift this a little bit. Okay, I'm going to copy this down. I'm going to do it on this same sheet. Control C, Control C, and I'll come down here and control. Okay, sorry, I think I double clicked. Control C and Control V. Okay, we have it. Okay, so let's remodel this so that we can bring out our spark lines. Okay, so I'm going to be using these parameters for spark lines. Okay, let me uncheck this. Okay, I'm removing the average salary. So I'm going to be adding my turnover rate. I'm going to be adding my turnover rate, my total employee, and my retention rates. Okay, then I'll take my month name to the row. Okay, my month name is on the row, my turnover rates, and all of this is here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me make this percentage. Okay, so let me also make this percentage. Okay, now I'll go over to my insert and I'll pick my spark line. Now when I click on my spark line, it asks me location range. So I'm going to pick here as my location range and I'll click OK. So my spark line will be added here. I just wanted to have a spark line for my turnover rate. I just wanted to have a spark line for my turnover rate. Okay, I'm also going to get a spark line. Let me also do for retention rate. Okay, let me try something first of all. Okay, let me try something first of all. Sorry, let me go to insert. Okay. Okay, so I'll be using this. Let's use this. Okay, so this is showing how this is simply showing the turnover rate for the month, how it went. So this is simply showing the turnover rate across the months. Okay, we can see the month that is the highest and the month that is the lowest in terms of people leaving the company. Okay, so let me do the same thing for retention rates. Let me do the same thing for retention rates. For retention rates, I use the column sparkline. Okay, let me pick a range. Let me pick here and say okay. Okay, that is it. Okay, so this is what we have. This is what we have. Okay, so when we are building our dashboard, we will take all of this, all the charts we've made. Okay, let me name this sheet before I forget that. Let me name this sheet by gender. By gender. Okay, let me color code this. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so we are through with doing our analysis and getting our insights out of this data. Okay, you can also go further to add more objectives. You can also go further to add more objective and also bring them to life by modeling them on the pivot table and see what you can achieve. Okay, the objectives are not limited to these ones I have here alone. There are a whole lot of objectives to get from this data. There's a whole lot of analysis to be getting from this data. So it is not limited to just these objectives that I have here alone. No, it is not. You can go ahead to get further calculations or other further measures and all of that. Okay, you can also go further to get a whole lot of things out of this data because there's just a whole lot to get out of this data. But for this class, I wanted to give us these ones. Okay, so we can also go further to get more. We can also go further to get more out of this. Okay, so for our next class, I'm going to be building the dashboard. I'll start building the dashboard from the next class. Okay, so we're going to start doing this from the next class. We're going to do this. Okay, see us at the next class. Thank you very much.